So one of the things that all of you are doing or about to do is, as you begin to choose the person that you're shepherding, at some point you're going to go into a contract. And we had talked when you were here at Swantip, well, should that be a written contract? What should be in that contract? How do we begin to look at that? And so there's a whole series of questions, and I think on the platform now there's a question, what do you think about that? And does anybody, but I think it's one of the things that you individually need to think about, and then we'll take the individual look at all of those contract pieces, and we'll begin to see what we can learn, and we'll also look at which contracts work the best and which ones don't. But the contracting itself, you decide what it is that you want to do and how you want to make that contract. But I'd have some suggestions in that, and we talked about the need for it to be formal, and we talked about the need for it to have structure, and you guys live in a world of structure and form, and so do I, and so that's nice to have. But there's also kind of other ways of creating the contract. My father was someone whose word was his bond, okay? And so when he said he was going to do something, I would rather have a handshake by my father than I would a contract, a written one. What's important is that contract gets made consciously between the two of you. And a powerful way of doing that is to do it with ritual. Whether it's we write a contract together and we do that as part of our initial, connection as we start this process, and what do you need and what do I need and how do we agree with all of these things, and you might write it down, or you might have two pieces of paper and you can doodle your way through it, but you make something that is a record or an agreement that then you can sign or pledge but rituals are when we create the ability to connect feeling. It doesn't have anything to do with the outward form. It's not the written contract that becomes important. It is the vibrational connection that we make with each other as a bond that begins to sanctify this relationship, to create this connection so that we know that if there gets distortion in these relationships, and I would put this in a contract, what do we do if we get distorted? What if, and a part of that, and we talked about this a little bit when we were looking at, well, can we do harm? Well, if what happens is there's a distortion and a separation, well, you need to be able to get back to that. And so some ability to, if we get mad at each other, we have to agree that we're going to sit with each other and work that through. If you get into an emotional, and it's more apt that the person that you are shepherding is going to get angry with you or upset. And by the way, that doesn't have to happen in an outward way. You may feel that there is a disconnect that's happening between you and the person that you are working with. And when you feel that disconnect, you need to say it. And if they feel a disconnect, they need to say it. What we're going to be doing is trying to be as honest in our connections with each other as we can be. And that's part of a contractual agreement. And then there's just the bread and butter of all of this. how do we do this? Do we get together every third Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning after we do gym? Or, are we going to be, what are the levels of contact that are sustainable? How do we deal with everybody's travels and all of that? And maybe we do, okay, we're going to get together at least twice a month, whether that's in person or on Zoom, and we both have to monitor that because we all can get lost in our busyness. And part of our contract is our contract with them, and we agree that in this time, we're going to make this a priority. So we all need to think about what's the nature of the contract that I want to make with this other person. What do they need from it? What are all of those expectations? And then begin to create a ritual. How are you going to kind of solidify that? Maybe it's just done at the level of repeat back, which speak to me about what you just heard. What do you understand? And then you can ask me what I understand in terms of my commitment to you. We can verbalize that and we will remember it more because we've spoken it or written it or exchanged in a way that that creates something around. And you can be as cool with rituals as you want to be, okay? But creating significance and making this a significant relationship, that's the contract, and it's vibrational, and it's done in the way that is comfortable for you. There is no prescribed contract that we need to have, but you need to be conscious about how you're going to create that level of connection.